If the Wi-Fi router was in the crawl space, I would be willing to get down and crawl in the crawl space to go find the back of the Wi-Fi router to get service. Also check if they have a metal roof. This is a weird one, but if they have a metal roof, just step outside of the metal roof on their front porch and you'll get service again. It's like the weirdest thing in the world.
Tell them to turn their hotspot on.
Or tell them to turn their hotspot on, whatever it is. But like, it's all about being resourceful. Like, how bad do you want the sale? When they're sitting there with a voided check across the table to hand to you, and you're like, oh, I don't have Wi-Fi, so I left. That's just, it's an agent who gave up. An agent who gave up on protecting that family, and most likely they're not gonna, you're not gonna go back.
I'm like, what's the dream of? What's the hope in? What's the doubt for? Live to no end. This is living. The life I've been given as a gift. If I'm living, I'ma live it to death. So what's the dream of? What's the hope in? What's the doubt for? And live to no end. This is living. The life I've been given as a gift. If I'm living, I'ma live it to death. Yeah.
Welcome everybody to the Living Hope live agency call. I couldn't be more excited for our topic tonight. I've got my fellow Hall of Fame producer, Mr. Mike Curry, here with me tonight. Mike, did you make it on?
I'm on here. Excited for it.
Let's go, man. Hey, I'm excited to have you on. So guys, tonight there's just such a plethora of information that we're going to go through. So like I said, it's all about having a pen and paper ready to take notes. So the key word of the call tonight is going to be resourcefulness. Okay. Resourcefulness. We're going to talk about how to become a resourceful agent and how that is the number one thing that you need to have to be an agent in this business. And we're also going to talk about a word called pivoting. Okay. What to do when you get yourself into a weird situation in the home, how to pivot, what direction to go. We're going to talk about what situations come up most often for agents where they don't know what to do. What situations come up where they have the sale closed, but they let some little external thing like not being able to find the bank account information or not having service keep them from getting the sale, or not having access to that application. Whatever that thing is, they let that thing hold them back. So resourcefulness is going to be the number one thing that we talk about on the call tonight. So I'm excited. And I think it's important to know, if you're an agent who comes here, and this is a very easy example that I see all the time, is somebody comes here and maybe let's say they struggle with technology. Okay. That's probably one of the most common ones. They struggle with how to use SuranceBay, how to use HCMS. If I see that someone's struggling to get through contracting, one of the first things that I'll say to them is I'll say, Mike, if you're struggling so hard to get through SuranceBay, I'm here to help. We're here to help. We're not your technical support. That's number one. Number two is, if you're going to struggle this much with getting contracted, you're going to struggle a lot when you get into the home and we start submitting electronic applications. And when I ask you to pivot from one carrier to another carrier, and you need to jump from this application to that application. So it's just something we need to nip in the butt right now, that FFL agents, to be successful, Hall of Fame producers, they're the most resourceful people. Okay. They're willing to climb over a pile of boxes to find the Wi-Fi code if they're in a hoarder's house. They're willing to help the client find their bank account. They're willing to be resourceful to help that person find the information. So that's kind of how we'll start this. Mike, I'd love to just kind of hear your perspective. It was kind of your idea for us to put this call together. I'd love to kind of hear what was going through your mind. Just as you told me, I'm just noticing a lot of new agents. They don't really know how to be resourceful. They don't really know how to pivot. What was going through your mind as we put this together?
Yeah. And again, I'm excited for this topic because I think it's very beneficial, but I think, honestly, what was going through my mind was that I think people tend to become dependent when they don't know where to find the answer. And I think that like the main objective, obviously, as someone's manager or whatnot, you want to be able to show you where to find the tools to be able to figure this stuff out. A lot of it, I'll be honest, problem solving skills, right? That's something, I brought over here from repairing appliances, but a lot of the questions that we see are easily found. And I think once you have an idea of where to find them, I think you'll find it. The entire process is so much easier. So I think a lot of it's just learning where to look, and where to, consistently. It's not that big of a deal, right? But I think I'm excited about showing people where to find the answers for some of this stuff that's very simple.
Yeah. I mean, we kind of just have a list of things, guys. We don't really have a particular chronological order. So we're just going to kind of dig through a couple things, just comment on it as we see fit. So I think the number one thing that I see new agents struggle with, and this is a really simple one, and Mike and I are going to give you a bunch of really easy solutions for this, is what do I do, Mike, if they can't find their bank account information?
Right. So, I mean, first things first, you got to know where you can find yours, right? So, like, obviously the first one's a voided check. Okay. So, find a voided check. Most people have a voided check somewhere. When you first, get your bank account, they give you this big folder with a blank voided check before they send you checks. A lot of people know where they have that.
And which numbers are which? So you got the numbers on the left, the numbers in the middle.
So the first number's on the left. It's usually like for like an actual bank, it's usually like 053, right? Or credit union. So it's the one on the left. The one on the right usually starts with zeros. A lot of times is your account number. It's usually a longer number. Sometimes they're shorter. And then your routing number is typically like 9 digits long, right? Yep. So I actually had to ask my wife that when I first started here. I had never written a check before, and she used to work at a bank. She showed me. So like familiarize yourself with those things. Bank statements, right? If they don't have a physical statement that's mailed out, it's because they have a mobile app that's downloaded. Help them figure out how to get into their mobile app. I use my phone and log into mine and show them kind of how to find it. They can pull up actually in a lot of companies or banks or credit unions, especially credit unions, won't show you the account number within the app, but you can go in and find the bank statement from the previous month and literally pull up a image of what they send out in the mail, and you can find the account number, right? Mm-hmm. And guys, you can Google the routing number. So you can type in, for instance, South Carolina routing number, like, hey, where do you bank? Bank here in Fort Mill. Okay, BB&T South Carolina routing number. And it'll pull up the routing number. So while they're looking for the account number, I actually have the routing number here for you, little things like that.
It just builds up more credibility as well. It's like, hey, I typed it into my computer. My computer already had your routing number 323-555-000. Is that right? Yeah, that sounds right. All right, go ahead and grab me that account number.
Right. Mm-hmm. And then you can help them find it in some of those areas.
And, little membership card in their wallet. I can't tell you how many people have. The thing is, we're trying to problem solve, like Mike said. So it's like, I can't find my bank account. Okay, you got a check laying around? No. Okay, you got one of those little membership cards in your wallet that's got routing and account number on it? No. Okay, you got a bank statement? No. You do mobile banking? Yes. You know your login? Yes. All right, perfect. Go ahead and log in for me. And it's all about problem solving. So I think bank account, that's a really, really simple one, but it's one that a lot of agents, they walk out of homes. Like they have the person who's ready to buy, and they literally walk out of the home without the sale. And I think that's kind of the theme of the call tonight, is like the little things that agents let hold them back from making the sale when they already have the sale. So like tonight, we're not talking about how to overcome objections. We're not talking about how to get the bank account information. We're talking about where to find it. We're not talking about, how to, sell somebody on why they need insurance. We're talking about they've already said they're going to buy, but you've walked out of the house and you've left because you let some little thing hold you back from getting the sale. So bank account, that's one. Let's look here. Another one's Direct Express. So, Mike, kind of give us your perspective on Direct Express. You're someone they go, hey, I can't get them written with Americo because all they got is a Direct Express card.
Right. And this goes, and again, we're not going to really discuss the in-home, but the whole point of structuring the in-home where you set up and you let them know what we're going to need to submit the request, and they say they don't have a bank account, and you find out they have a Direct Express card before you get all the way through and sell them an America policy that you can't actually write. But I always remember and write this down, PAT, right? Prosperity, AIG, and Transamerica. Those are the three companies that can take a Direct Express card, and you know that ahead of time so you don't get into an e-app with another company and find that out.
Yeah. And I think it's important. Like, we're going to talk about this concept of not getting on your back foot a lot. Like when you're on your back foot, you're off balance. When you're on your back foot, you're defending. You're not on offense, you're on defense. So it's like, if I sit down with Mike and I'm like, hey, I've got this awesome product called the Americo Eagle. It's got a terminal illness rider. It doubles in the event of an accident. Fantastic product who we submit our healthiest individuals through. This is the best product in the world. Like, you got to get this. And Mike's just like, yeah, I want to buy it. And you're like, it's $92 for 30,000. He's like, yeah, let's do it. And then you go through it. You got a banking, what's your bank account? And like, you already filled out the whole application. He's like, I don't got a bank account. All I got is this Direct Express MasterCard. And you're like, crap. And now at this point, what I found the agents do is they either leave the home, which not many do this, but some do, or they start to now attempt to pivot. Okay, they attempt to pivot to another carrier. They call their manager, hey, they got Direct Express. We tell them PAT, and now they're kind of scrambling. And now they're like, hey, well, we can move over here to Prosperity. They're like, but I really want Americo. You just told me how great Americo is. Sorry, you can't get Americo. And it's like when you tell a client that they're declined, and you tell a client we can't do something after you're taking it away from them. And it's just like you're pulling the rug out from underneath them. And clients don't like that. So like our goal is to like give the client what they thought they were going to get the first time. So we'll kind of dig into, some different ways that we go about that here in a second, but it's important to not build up one carrier so big. Like our goal is just to, as we go through the financial inventory, our goal is to gather as much information as possible. We gather this information. It allows us to make an educated decision moving forward about what carrier we're going to use. It's based on knockout questions. It's based on medications. It's based on what kind of bank account they have. It's based on their age. That's what managers are there to help you in the beginning. So just know that we're going to direct you, but if you don't get the information in the beginning. So what's an easy way to find out if they have a Direct Express card? You're going through the financial inventory. At the bottom, it says, do you have a will? Okay. Hey, you got a will, Mike? No, I don't have a will. Okay, perfect. And, do you bank with a bank or a credit union? Credit union. Got it. Okay. I'm going to write down this website called doyourownwill.com. It's totally free. All you have to do is print it out and get it notarized at your credit union. Now I know he's a credit union. No, I've got a bank. I got a Direct Express. Gotcha. Okay. Well, I'm still going to write down this website, doyourownwill.com. You just got to find somebody who's a notary. Typically banks and credit unions have a free notary on staff. Just a really easy way to snag that right up front, so you don't find yourself trying to get off your back foot later. It's possible to get off your back foot, but it's like, it takes a little bit of skill where you've been doing this for a long time. You understand how to stay in balance. Other people, they get on their back foot, they fall backwards and they fall out of the sale because now they're scrambling. Okay, well, let's try Prosperity, Transamerica, AIG, and a confused client doesn't move. I think that's really important. A confused client does not move. So if we have to lead, guide, and direct them in a direction. And my goal is not to take too many turns. My goal is to guide them in one direction. And whether I get declined in the home 3 times or not, the client's never going to know. My job is to get them approved the first time in their mind. And we'll kind of dig into that, Mike. So I know that we talked a little bit about the prescription check. We talked about the medical conditions, the knockout questions. Talk to me about how you use the financial inventory just to direct them properly the first time versus, just kind of throwing paint at the wall and hoping that it sticks.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to mention one last thing about the bank account I didn't mention. All those like Chime app, NetSpend, MetaBank, all of those things, they all have an account routing number and they all have an app that they can find it. And you can even help them set up an account. I just wanted to mention that. So if somebody's writing this down. So yeah, on the financial inventory, I'm starting with the medical questions, the medical conditions before prescriptions, right? Because like I'll go through heart attack, stroke, or cancer, stents, diabetes, like neuropathy. Like these are things, for instance, like neuropathy, like we need to know, is it diabetic or not, right? So when you don't need to know this stuff to start, but you need to make sure that you're asking the questions so that when you circle neuropathy, you can write diabetic when you send it to me, right? Or non-diabetic, right? High blood pressure, asthma or COPD, right? COPD, we know which direction. We can get in that in a second, but we know which direction. So like these things, like ask them, if they say they've had a heart attack, how long ago did you have the heart attack? Like those are questions you want to ask. Oh, it was 8 years ago. Okay. Have you had any since? Right? Like you can go question by question. Have you had any strokes? When's the last time you had a stroke? Right? Like any of these questions. Cancer. Have you had any reoccurrences? Diabetes, pills or insulin? Both. Okay. How many pills are you prescribed for insulin? 3. Okay. Right. Like write 3. Right? High blood pressure medicine. I mean, most people won't be on more than 2. Thyroid, anxiety, depression. Like how many depression meds are you on? Or are you prescribed? Right? Because a lot of people say, well, I only take 1. Well, how many are you prescribed? Like those are questions to ask. Kidney, liver disease. Are you, congestive heart failure? If you're more on the term side, which you can ask this either way, any reckless driving tickets, background felonies, anything, that they're going to pull up or no. Like those are questions you ask, but like if someone said they had a heart attack 6 months ago, or let's just say cancer 6 months ago, like we know which direction to go, right? You don't even have to sit here and waste time filling out a bucket of medications, right? So those medical questions, really after your name, age, smoking status, and birthday, like they're really the first thing that you need to go to and ask before even getting started.
100%. I mean, if we were listening to somebody earlier and they're dialing and the person's going through all their meds, all their conditions, and then they say dialysis. It's like just right there. It's like buzzword dialysis, AIG. Okay. So it's like you go, hey, can you go ahead and grab your prescriptions for me? And they go, it's a lot. And they go grab the Easter basket and there's like 35 medications there. And you're like about to write down every single one of these medications and Google them. And you should do that as a new agent just because it's going to teach you the underwriting. And that's important. And we'll touch on that here in a second. But when you use the knockout questions, like those conditions on the bottom, those are directly correlated to all the knockout questions on all of the applications: heart attack, stroke, cancer, stents, diabetes, neuropathy, high blood pressure, et cetera, et cetera. They're directly correlated. So the first thing that Mike and I do is hey, you ever had a heart attack, stroke, or cancer? No. Okay. Diabetes, high blood pressure, thyroid, et cetera. And then it's like, no. Okay. Now, if I don't have enough information, and what medications you take, and go grab the bottles for me. And now I can kind of dig a little bit deeper to make sure I'm not missing anything. It's like, if they seem healthy based on the conditions, okay, definitely go grab me whatever medications you're taking, because I want to know if there was something that was left off of that list. Another question is there anything you've been prescribed in the past that you stopped taking or chosen not to take? Oh yeah, I was prescribed some nitroglycerin for heart attack that I keep it, but I don't really take it. If you do this long enough, you'll realize you get someone denied for America. You have no idea why. The heart attack was 9 years ago outside of the window. But if nitroglycerin's on their prescription check, they're going to get declined. And you have no idea why. Then you check their prescriptions, you Google it, you find out why. All it takes is one time doing that to never make that mistake again. But it's like the key is that sometimes we build up one company so much. We build up America, we build up Moo, we build up whatever that company is. And then we didn't do a good enough job on the financial inventory. So now the client thinks that that's what they're going to get. You quote them for it and everything. Then you go to submit the request for coverage and they either get denied during the prescription check or they get denied at the end because you didn't do a good enough job of explaining to them or of asking the questions so that you could get a good idea of what direction to go with your manager. And one of the worst things you could ever say in the house is, Mike, I'm sorry to tell you, America declined you. I'm sorry to tell you that you didn't get the AMM policy. All right, we're gonna have to find some other options. I mean, hearing that, I mean, the client already, it's a 30-minute plus process, and now you're gonna go through that 30-minute process again. I can't tell you how many sales I lost as a brand new agent because I said, sorry, you were declined. Let's go a different direction. They're like, no, I'm good. This is too much hassle for me, because I didn't do a good job with the financial inventory. So our goal is to avoid the language of being declined. So like, Mike, talk about how you use the prescription check without specifically saying this is America, and how you use that to determine what direction you're going to go. So the client doesn't even know whether they've been approved or declined until you submit the final application and get them approved.
Right. So after I, obviously you fill out the financial inventory and you believe, right? That's the thing. You believe that they're good to go with America. Right. So
and the way that you know that they can be good to go with America is if you can answer no to all the knockout questions.
Correct.
Okay. And it's like on the America application, there's like 12 questions. If you can answer no to every question, submit the request or submit the prescription check every time. But if you have to answer yes to anything, we're going to go a different direction. That's where you call your manager. But yeah, keep going, Mike.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. So basically assuming that, I believe they can go America, right? I love America because of their prescription check, right? Like obviously if it goes through, I love America. I think they're the best products for the most part for the client. So that's which way I'm going to go. But, I'm going through and I just let them know, hey, we're going to do a quick HIPAA authorization. They're going to do a brief prescription check and they're going to let me know which direction to go, because we've got like 20 to 30 different carriers here. And then it'll give me the ability to shop around for the options that you can actually possibly qualify for. Right. So then I open the America app. They have no idea really what I'm doing. And I'm honestly using it as a tool, right? Because obviously if you can move forward with America, again, that's where I'm going to go. If it's declined, right? If it says, hey, you only qualify for the 10,000, whatever, then I'm going to go through and I'm going to say, okay, it looks like, something on your prescription history here, anything. And then you kind of dig, right? But like, if I go through, I'm just asking the questions and write some of the information down. Jamie uses the client profile sheet. That's the perfect time to fill that out. as you're going through. You already have their social, their email. You don't need to re-ask all these questions again. You have the questions, right? And then literally, like, I get that done, they sign it, and there's no other company that has that HIPAA authorization there at the beginning that like really makes much of a commotion, right? So then if you're declined, then you know which direction to go. And then you message me, call your manager, and I would probably text here and just be like, hey, Americo said no, which direction you think? Because obviously we had already spoken. So that's kind of how I use the HIPAA authorization, the prescription check, to give me an idea which direction to go.
Yeah, that's good. And you mentioned the client profile. I mean, it's important because, like, if you're just the person who inputs the information into the application, you don't write anything down. If you do have to pivot to another carrier, you're going to have to ask for their social, their banking info, their driver's license number, everything all over again. And you have no idea how annoying that is after they've already put the driver's license back in their wallet. They've already put the voided check away. They've already given you their personal information, which maybe they weren't super comfortable giving to you. So for me, I've got the client profile, and, I've got first and last name from the lead card, date of birth from the lead card, address from the lead card. I got their social. So now, hey, Mike, we're going to do a quick prescription check. You familiar with HIPAA, the Medical Information Bureau? Just says I can't share any of your private medical information with anybody. Real quick, before I fill that out, I just need to confirm a couple pieces of info. Got your cell phone here, 928-318-2698. Is that correct? Got your email here, mikecurryffl@gmail.com. Okay, real quick, Mike, what's your social? Don't even look up from the paper. And it's just, I don't need the social. The paper needs a social. Now I got first and last name, date of birth, address, social, email, phone number. Okay. I have everything that I need to fill out the first 4 pages of the Americo application. The only 2 pieces of information I don't have is how long you've been living at this address and where you're born. And that's just, as I'm pulling it up, that's small talk. Okay. You're going to learn how to small talk through this whole thing to buy yourself time. So I start filling out the first few pages of the application. And Mike, how long you been living here? 7 years.
5 years.
5 years. Perfect. Now I put it in there. Oh, only 1 year. Okay. Where'd you used to live? Okay. I used to live in Myrtle Beach. Got it. You got that old address? Yes. Okay. Hey, and where were you born, man? You grew up around here? No, actually, I grew up in Michigan. Got it. Okay. Now I have everything that I need to get through the first couple pages of the Americo application. And, now when I get to that page where I'm having them sign, I'm not saying, hey, sign, here's the Americo application, sign the HIPAA authorization. It's just, I literally slide the HIPAA authorization in front of them and say, hey, sign here, please. You can read through it if you like. You're welcome to zoom in, do whatever you want. This is just a HIPAA authorization. They sign it. I click submit. And then at that point, quickly, no to all the questions, and then wait to see what Americo says. Now, only if Americo says the client may be eligible for the $30,000 death benefit, or the, may qualify for the coverage of its term. At that point, then I will start pitching them Americo. Okay, don't start building them up on a specific company until I'm sure of what direction we're going to go, because the worst thing is building up a company and then pulling out the rug from underneath them. You build up the term, the living benefits with Americo, and then find out that all they can qualify for is AIG. Like, they're 55 years old, and you're building up this amazing CBO product, and then you're like, oh, sorry, man, you can't even qualify for that. Like, that sucks. And the client, they get pretty butthurt from that kind of stuff. So it's all about how to stay level when someone gets declined. It's also when you don't know what to do, it's the posture. Okay. It's, how do I stay calm on the surface, even if I'm freaking out on the inside and I don't know what to do next? I can't tell you how many times that happened to me. And I was on the phone and I called my manager, and I wasn't calm on the surface. I was kind of freaking out on the surface. Like, hey, they got declined. And Grady was like, Jamie, calm down. Do you want this sale or not? Like, the client can see you kind of spinning right now. Calm down. Like, you need to be level on the surface. And there was this old saying that one of my old mentors used to say. He said, you got to be like a duck. Calm on the surface, but under the water, you're flapping like hell. So you got to be like a duck. Calm on the surface, but under the water, you're flapping like hell, because that's how it is. They just got declined. Okay. Text Mike, hey, they just got declined. Mike's like, what? Well, Mike's going to ask a follow-up question. What were those medications again? Boom, boom, boom. Okay, got it. Here's the direction you should go. So what we're going to do is we're going to give you guys kind of like an order of operations here. We're going to talk about whole life here in a second. We'll talk about term, and then we'll talk about a few more things we run into in the home. So healthiest people from a whole life perspective, healthiest individuals, Americo, Mutual of Omaha, Aetna Preferred. Okay. Those are like the standard of this person's healthy. Then after that, you've got, your Aetna standard, your Aetna modified, you've got your AMM graded and ROP, and you've got your prosperity. Prosperity immediate, technically you can get up there with the Americo and the Moo as well, but we pick Americo first. And, Moo in special situations, we're not going to dig into why we would pick one carrier over the other. We love Americo for so many reasons, but here, I'm going to give you guys a couple examples, and I'm going to teach you guys a trick that has saved me so many times in the home and has actually made the client thank me up and down, even after they just got declined for something. So say someone they don't get approved with Americo. Okay. So I move over. So we're just going to give a scenario. So I'm sitting down with Mike. Mike's 57. He had a heart attack in 2009. Okay. And he's taking like 4 different high blood pressure medications. He's taking carvedilol, which is for somebody who, it's high blood pressure, but it's also to prevent congestive heart failure. So it's like a pretty serious high blood pressure medication. Maybe you hadn't seen that one before. You can definitely tell Mike's got some risk going on with his heart, but it was something that happened back in 2009. America looks at it, they see it, and they see, here's a bunch of medications. Here's a guy who had a heart attack. We don't know when it was. All we see is prescriptions, denied. Personally, anytime I think heart, I think AMM. Okay. Anything with heart, anything with blood thinners, I think AMM. And I have a lot of success doing this technique here. So let's say, it's Zach sitting in the home with Mike. Zach calls me and Zach says, hey, I'm sitting here with Mike. We just ran the prescription check. It came back with something. So I didn't say, hey, Jamie, I'm sitting here with Mike and the Americo prescription check denied him. Hey, I'm sitting here with Mike and the prescription check came back with something. I know what that means. Your manager knows what that means. And the client isn't declined at that point. So I'm going to say, okay, tell me what's going on. He tells me the situation. I say, here's what you're going to do. You're going to go over to American Amicable. Okay. They have 3 rate classes: immediate, graded, and return of premium. Okay. So immediate is the exact same as the American Eagle. Graded is they're going to get 30% of the death benefit in the first year, 70% in the second year, and the full death benefit in the third year. And MMROP is similar to AIG. It's going to have the 110% for the first 2 years and then full death benefit afterwards. So here's what you're going to do, Zach. You're going to quote Mike for return of premium. And then you're going to write the application requesting immediate coverage. And there's a little box you're going to click that says willing to accept graded or return of premium coverage. Okay. And I'll explain this here in a second. So I'm sure you guys, you fill out an application, you're going through it, and there's a little box underneath that says client is willing to accept a graded or modified plan. Okay. You can use this box to your advantage. So what I do is I'm going to tell Zach to quote Mike for the worst case scenario, but apply for the best case scenario and click that box. Okay. And what happens? So Zach quotes Mike for 30,000 or 20,000 in coverage, because I think that's the max for return of premium. And it comes out to 225 for 20,000, but 20,000 immediate was 135. Okay. So it's more expensive for ROP. So imagine there's 2 different scenarios here. I show Mike $135 a month for AMM for 20,000. He gets denied again. And I go, hey, let's switch rate classes. It's actually now going to be 225. Now I'm on my back foot. Now I'm like, hey, there's actually going to be an increase in price. I'm sorry to tell you that. Mike's like, get out of here. I don't even want to deal with this. Like, I can't believe you're going to increase the price on me after I've dealt with all this. Whereas instead, Zach says, hey, 20,000 is going to be 225. He shows him the absolute worst case scenario. He goes, but what I'm going to do, because I'm the underwriter here, I'm going to fight for you. They actually give me a box to put in some, descriptions about, what you got going on. If you're changing your lifestyle and stuff, and put some notes in for you, and I'm going to fight for the best amount of coverage. So this is the absolute worst case scenario, 20,000 for 225, but I'm going to apply to try to get you more coverage. But that 225, that would fit into your budget, right? So now what I'm doing is I'm selling based on budget, and I'm trying to get him as much coverage as possible for the budget. So by doing that, by showing the worst case scenario, a lot of times I end up getting a lot of extra premium out of people, because I get them to agree to a higher premium. And I say, I'm going to get you the most amount of coverage possible. So now when I'm doing the AMM application, there's 2 spots. There's going to be apply for the face amount and apply for the premium. Rather than applying for the face amount, I apply for the premium. So instead of applying for 20,000 in coverage, I apply for $220 a month worth of coverage. Then I click the little box underneath it that says willing to accept a modified graded ROP plan, whatever it says, but then I apply for immediate. So what happens is if somehow Mike gets through with AMAM immediate, he's going to end up getting more coverage for the same price. So I can come back to him and say, hey, Mike, good news. AMAM actually approved you for the 220 a month, but instead of giving you 20,000, they're going to give you 30,000. They're going to give you 35,000. So what does that look like? How much better does that make a client feel when I say, hey, best case scenario, man, you actually got approved for more coverage for the same price we already agreed you could afford, versus, hey, I built up this thing and actually it's going to be more expensive because you got denied. Like, which one feels better? So it's like, but then let's say I go through and it goes, Mike Curry's been approved for the return of premium with AMAM. Now it's exactly what I told him it was going to be. He got approved for exactly what I quoted him. I'm not on my back foot. Hey, you got approved for exactly what I told you it was going to be. Or, hey, you got approved for something better than what I told you it was going to be, versus, hey, you got denied. Now let me show you something worse. It's like, it's such, and you can do that with Aetna. You can do that with Prosperity. Any company that has multiple levels of coverage, graded, ROP, modified, you can do that with. So anytime you're just not sure, you're like, I know they're somewhere in the middle. I know that they're not AIG, but they're also not America. I know there's somewhere in the middle here. I always quote for the worst case scenario and get them to agree to a premium. And then I apply for the best case scenario. And then I click the box saying they're willing to accept the graded or return of premium. You can do that with Aetna, same exact thing. The goal is, just to be able to answer no to as many of the questions as possible. And do that. So Mike, any follow-up to that? Any questions, comments?
Yeah, I think something that's helped me, this isn't a super on topic, but right there, when you're talking about getting them to agree on a premium, something that I've done and it's changed everything. People are like, well, how do you get them to agree to a premium? And you guys are going to be amazed at this answer or this question I ask. And it's like, I ask them, right? Like, you're like, well, how do I decide? You ask them. It's like, all right, Jamie, obviously we got to, go through and see if we can get you approved, but how much would you like to put towards this a month? What's a comfortable amount? And then I can find you the coverage within that affordable range. And like what I find, you ask people that, then they say, oh, I'd like to put $200 a month towards it. You know what you're working with. And then you literally get no rebuttals on premium because you're showing someone max coverage for 200. Now you're putting in 200 as a premium and you're coming back with whatever you can get for that. That's just something I wanted to add because it's helped me a lot with finding what people can afford.
And I think that's a really good transition because we're going to talk a little bit about downselling. Okay. So you get somebody that, maybe you show them the options, you show them, it depends on how you do this. Some people, they do a 3-option close. I like that a lot. Lately, I've been doing the 1-option close that Mike does, where you just show them the max amount of coverage and see what they say. But it's like, hey, there's 3 options here, basically bronze, silver, gold. This one's going to take care of everything. This bottom one's going to take care of bare minimum. This middle one's going to take care of most everything with a little bit extra left behind, but, not quite as much as the top one. Which one of these makes the most sense if you could qualify? Mike, on the other hand, hey, $30,000 American Eagle, it's going to cost, $349 a month. Will that one work for your budget? Was that one, hey, can that disappear into your budget? Yes. Awesome. Let's go ahead and submit the request for coverage. No. Okay. Let's scale it back a little bit. Then you can learn how to down close, downsell. And you can do this from a couple different perspectives. One, you can just sit there with the top amount and you can just kind of keep on pulling it back until you find something that makes sense. Or, all the time I'm showing the options, 3 options, and it's like, hey, top one obviously makes the most sense. That's what they're saying. And it's like, they're like, but hey, I'm not sure. We really need to think about it. Perfect. Yeah, that's what most people need to do. They need to think about it. What most people also do is they just submit a request for less, because the most important thing is that you keep it. And, I was telling Zach this morning, I say, hey guys, if you're my parents, I probably wouldn't even recommend the top one for you. Honestly, if you're my parents, I don't think that would make the most sense. If you're my parents, I'd probably recommend that we just submit for something, just to see if you guys can qualify. It's something that can actually disappear into your budget. And it's like, it's learning to know when to downsell, learning to know when to you're showing too much premium. You're showing too much premium. You're going to work your way 100% out of the sale, learning budget, asking them what they want to spend. All those different questions are big when it comes to downsell. Also downsell to accidental. Hey, let's just get something in place. Let's make sure you guys have something. Okay. The $232 was too expensive. Gotcha. All right. Let's max out an accidental for $98 a month. let's get something on the books. God forbid an unexpected death happens. It's just learning how to not leave the house. If you have a buyer, but it's just based on price, it's like, hey, let's just go ahead and put something in place. Let's go ahead and put something in place. I mean, Mike, you can probably speak to the fact that you've put something in place for someone who didn't really want to put something in place, and you dealt with death claims that paid out because of that.
Right. No, 100%. Yeah. It's just like at the end of the day, like everybody has a different approach on it. I like the Sean Mike approach. Like they filled out a lead. It's my job to make sure they're protected. It's their job to make sure that they pay for it every month. And then do, like what Jamie said, making sure that you're asking the right questions to make sure that they can afford it. But at the end of the day, if this is my thing. Like, I don't like people digging through my budget. Like I know when I go to buy something, even a car, I know how much I want to spend for that car, right? Like I go to the car lot. I don't need you to dig through and see if I can actually afford the $400 that I talked to my wife before I got there, because they're talking, right? They have a price on their mind, and when you just simply ask them, hey, look, what's a comfortable range? And they tell you 225. Okay, we'll see what the max coverage is for 225. And that's it. And you start there. And then you go the extra mile, making sure that they can keep it and afford it. But, that's just something that, when you have a death claim like that, you learn to like not be okay with leaving without something in place, because I'm not doing my job. And when you realize you're working with leads, people who like requested the coverage, like it's kind of weird for me not to like put something in place or help them. So no matter how long or hard you have to kind of fight to find the perfect product that they can qualify and both afford, like you have to spend that time. You can't be worried about your next appointment, because like your client that you're sitting with is your most important, and anytime I've rushed out of a house, I go to the next one is a no-show. So that's just my philosophy, and that's kind of what I do.
Yeah. I mean, Paul McLean says, help the one you're with. Help the one you're with. I mean, I've experienced that too. So that's good, man. That's really good. So I think the main thing that we really want to share with you guys is just this resourceful attitude, like tenacity to help them put the policy in place, like just really actually caring about people and not just caring about your commission. Yes, like we're not going to dig into all the million ways to overcome objections and use what they wrote down in the financial inventory and the why that they told you as ammo and leverage. But it's like that stuff is so important to learn, because you're using that to help them put something in place that they know should be in place. And it's like Sean did something the other day on, I think, the Saturday call. He said, when somebody says, I want to think about it, he goes, okay, why? And I just need to write this down. How come you need to think about it? Do you need to think about it because it's like my manager makes me write this down? Do you need to think about it because A, you didn't like me, or B, I made it unaffordable for you? And it has to be one of those two. And just like lets him talk about it. He's like, do you not like me, not like trust me, or did I make it unaffordable for you? You made it unaffordable. Gotcha. Okay, let's work together. I'm here to problem solve. Let's find a place that is affordable. Okay, you don't like me, got it. We'll send somebody else out. I can't help if you don't like me. But nobody ever says they don't like you. I know you're great. And if we ever buy insurance, we'll definitely buy it from you. Can you leave your business card? It happens every time. So
right. It's always, dude, it's always product, price, or you.
Yeah.
There's something, there's nothing else. You literally booked an appointment with them and sitting down at their kitchen table. They have interest in insurance.
Mm-hmm. So let's dig through a couple other things. So I don't know how many, Mike, tell the story again about what you did when you didn't have phone service. Tell me that story again.
Yeah. I mean, I've had this multiple times, but one that I can think of recently, I'm sitting in the house, don't have any service. They don't have Wi-Fi, right? I'm in the South. So, there's a lot of pine trees and you lose service. So, I literally, you got to be mindful where you're at, right? So I told them, hey, is there anywhere close? Like, where do you guys typically have service, right? If they live there, they probably have an idea. And, guy said, hey, there's a church right up there around the corner. It's like, okay. So what I'm going to go do is go enter your information, and then I'm going to come back and you're going to sign it. And then I'm going to go back and I'll finish it out for you. Okay. And I'll call you from there and I'll get the rest of the information. So, okay. So I went, sat in the church parking lot like a weirdo and filled out America app, went back, left the screen open. They signed, drove back down, hit submit, process. They could qualify. I call them back. I go through the rest of the health questions, and I'm like, I can either drive back over for the banking information, or you can give it to me now, and I'll drive back over when you're ready to sign. Like, oh, I'll just give it to you now, right? You built trust. Like, clearly you're going there to help them. And, and then you drive back over and you close it out, and it was like a $6,000 sale between the two of them.
Yeah.
And this was, back at the end of spring. So you do what you got to do to figure it out.
When you have a buyer, you're willing to do, or you have a buyer, you're willing to do whatever it takes to protect them. I mentioned in the beginning of the call, are you like, if the Wi-Fi router was in the crawl space, I would be willing to get down and crawl in the crawl space to go find the back of the Wi-Fi router to get service. Also check if they have a metal roof. This is a weird one, but if they have a metal roof, just step outside of the metal roof on their front porch and you'll get service again. It's like the weirdest thing in the world.
Tell them to turn their hotspot on.
Or tell them to turn their hotspot on, whatever it is. But like, it's all about being resourceful. Like, how bad do you want the sale? When they're sitting there with a voided check across the table to hand to you, and you're like, oh, I don't have Wi-Fi, so I left. That's just, it's an agent who gave up. An agent who gave up on protecting that family, and most likely they're not gonna, you're not gonna go back. Okay, so if I'm there and the sale has been made, I'm not letting something like Wi-Fi hold me back from being the thing that keeps me from making the sale. So last couple things, and we'll get off of here. Mike, what do you do if your manager doesn't answer you when you're calling for underwriting?
Yeah, so you need to have like a list of people, but post in the chat that you need a senior underwriter. Right. And I like when people like actually have a phone conversation. I get if it's super late, nobody's answering, but like, it's really confusing sometimes when we like post a bunch of different underwriting stuff in the chat and people don't really know. So it's better to have a phone conversation, but just post in the chat that you need a senior underwriter. Put your phone number. Somebody will call you. We'll acknowledge it. Underwriting Genie, if they're working, which nowadays I think it's like 6 days a week. There's always underwriting Genie.
Yeah.
But you just reach out. Don't not reach out just because somebody doesn't answer the phone.
Yeah, posting in the chat is important because it's like there's probably 15 people in the chat that you said I need a senior underwriter. They're just like, they're waiting to help, because it's not like, let's say you're direct to me and I'm busy. Well, there's other people who are also learning. Like, one of the ways that I learned how to underwrite was by taking underwriting calls. So like, you're actually helping that person out by letting them help you, which, like, the weirdest thing in the world, you're helping them become a better coach for their team by allowing them to coach you, because coaching and teaching is the best way you get good at coaching and teaching. Like, I can't tell you how many times that, when Zach Babiars first called me, I remember many, many times he's like, this, and this. And I'm like sitting there going through the underwriting guides. I didn't know, but like, I was learning it as I went with him so that I could coach people later. And I was going through the prescriptions, which brings me to my last couple points. When it comes down to being resourceful, and you got the in-home help chat, you've got the underwriting G's, you got all these things, but like, learning how to become a good underwriter yourself is like the definition of resourcefulness. And it's not that hard. It really is not that hard. One of the easiest ways to become a beginner level underwriter, because there's you're dependent, then you're independent. Independent is where you're like a beginner level underwriter and you understand the knockout questions. And then you've got like expert level underwriter that like understands some real deep things, like specific medications that each carrier will accept versus won't accept. And one of the easiest things you can do is you can go to the FFL America website, you can go to the products tab, and you can go to cheat sheet. Literally, there's this beautiful A through Z with each of our main 6 carriers right there with will accept, won't accept, will accept, won't accept, aneurysm, heart attack, kidney failure, stroke, dialysis, diabetes, wheelchair, stuck in a hospital, like whatever it is, you literally just scroll A through Z and you find it and you're like, okay, and Aetna will accept that one, but it has to go modified. Got it. Okay. Transamerica will take that one. America will accept. Okay. If none of you'll notice that AIG is not on there. So if it says decline across the board and they're over 50, it means go AIG. Okay. So just the cheat sheets are one of the most important things that you can use. And then also, if you want to learn to be an expert level underwriter, every single company has underwriting guides, and they're all on the FFL America website. Americo, if you look under the Americo section, there's a thing called prescription guide, and there's literally a list of 300 plus medications A through Z for Americo that they do and don't accept. And you literally just scroll and go to the medication and just accept or decline, and you can find out which medication is giving you the problem. So like being resourceful is like learning the underwriting guides. And no, you don't need to do that to start. But if you've been here for a long enough time, you're becoming dependent on your manager to answer every question for you. But it's like, how many times can you call Mike and say, I've got a 62-year-old who's on metformin and high blood pressure medication. What direction do I go? It's like, that's got to stick at some point. And you realize, okay, that's an American Eagle. Hey, I got somebody who has dialysis. What direction do I go? Dialysis, AIG. I got someone who has congestive heart failure, AIG. I've got someone who has COPD, Aetna. Like those things will stick, but like you have to start using those cheat sheets to your advantage. Last thing I want to touch on, Mike, and I think you do a really good job of this, is when you run into, you know, this has happened to me many, many times, and I know it's happened to you. You've got one spouse that's healthy and one spouse that's unhealthy. And you go ahead and you do the prescription check, or you put the application through for the person who's unhealthy first, and they get declined. And then at that point, you tell them they got declined, and then they want to stop the whole appointment. What would you have done differently in that perspective to make sure that you at least got something on the books, rather than submitting the first person and then having to walk out of the house with nothing because they were upset that one person got declined?
Right. Always go with the quick, easy, the one that's healthier, the one that's simpler, right? The one that you think, and it's a judgment call, right? When you go through the medical conditions again, but like the one that's the healthiest and the simplest, do first. Always, because like Jamie said, you do the other one, you got to pivot. Now you're bouncing all around. You haven't even wrote the husband yet, who literally has nothing but high blood pressure. You could have knocked that one out in 10 minutes. And then they're like, oh, wow, this is going to go quick. And then you just bought yourself a free hour to do whatever you got to do to protect the wife. But like, if you go and you do the hard one first, you know, and then it takes 30 minutes, we'll call you later for John, you know, we'll do that one later. Right. And then he don't get protected and he dies 14 days later or something, you know, something stupid. But always do like the healthiest person first, to get it knocked out and get the information. And you know, again, when I ask the medical questions on the financial inventory, I'm asking both of them. There's no need to break that down separately, right? And then you just make notes, and I initial, right? If Mary said she had neuropathy, Mary, or you know, whatever, MC, if her name's MC, like, and then you know, John, high blood pressure, you know, JH. So like whatever that is, but always go with the first one that's healthiest and knock it out.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, man. Well, hey, this has been good. I think it's been powerful. I'm sure that there's other things that we were not able to cover here on this call, but I think there's so much that people were able to write down. So if you guys got some good value out of this, go ahead, drop a 1 in the comments if you're able to take at least one note that you're going to go ahead and apply to your business. Mike, any final thoughts just on the subject of resourcefulness for new agents and how important that is to their business?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, you're going to grow faster. You're going to be quicker in the home. You're going to write better business. You're going to put people in a better policy quicker. You're going to get less declines. Everything's just going to go better if you learn how to underwrite successfully. And two, these are two things I meant to mention earlier, like Google and FFL America, the website. There's probably other great websites, but the FFL America website and Google are like my best friends. When I don't know something, I will Google it.
Yeah.
Where do I find the routing number for Chime? And it tells you. Like if they have a medication that I don't know that's not on the prescription list, what is blank medication? And they'll give you like all the different generics that's probably on the list. Like Google everything. Like don't be afraid to Google, because you will find your answer. There's so many things you guys ask in the chat. I'll Google it. And then I just post a screenshot. I didn't know the answer. I just found it. Right. All the downloads in FFL America, like everything's there. All the agent guides, all the quote tools. You're like, you know how I learned to sell America's two products, the final expense product and the mortgage product? I literally printed out the final expense cheat sheet, or not cheat sheet, like the benefits. And I slide it in front of the client and I read what America Eagle does for you. Hey, it's double accidental. It's going to pay. It's a level death benefit. It's like, that's how you learn that stuff. Like utilize the tools. Like I cannot survive without fflamerica.com. And there's so many people I talk to who don't even use the website. And I'm like, I don't know how you do your job without it, because everything I use is on that website. And then when all else fails, don't like Google is your best friend. So that's like my final.
That's good, man. That's so good. And it's like, guys, your mentor, your manager, whoever, they're actually really not that good of an underwriter. Because I'll tell you right now, when you guys ask underwriting questions, I promise you, Mike and I don't have this all memorized. We literally just go to Google or FFL America for you and type it into the chat. That's literally all that's happening. Like 90% of the time when I receive an in-home phone call, I'm quickly on my iPad doing the research for you. And I'm here to tell you that you can do the research yourself, that you can empower yourself to be resourceful and know that all of that information is at your fingertips if you're just willing to go and find it. It's right there. I made a joke to Mike earlier. There's this website called letmegooglethatforyou.com. And I've done this to a couple of you, so don't be mad that I've done this to you. It's kind of a little passive aggressive, but it's called letmegooglethatforyou.com. And they'll be like, hey, where do I find this? And I'll literally go to this website and type in, where do I find this? Go, and it creates a link. And then when they click on it, it takes them to the website and it takes them to Google, but it types into Google for them and click search. It's literally let me Google that for you. So you can Google it yourself. Like, we're going to answer your messages. We're going to support you, but we're also going to encourage you to be independent and resourceful. And we're going to help you when you really need help. But at a certain point, like, you have to stop being dependent and you have to start wanting to be independent, because that's how you become a top producer here. So appreciate y'all. Thank you so much, Mike. So much good value. Everybody catch the recording tomorrow, and we'll talk to y'all soon. Have a good night, guys.